What's up guys, welcome back to another video. So finally got myself a decent setup, so hopefully you guys will be seeing the camera more often. But otherwise, in this video, we're going to talk about Bitcoin as well as what I believe to be the best coins to trade or to focus on during this week. And the reason why we're going to talk about something else is because, well, the setup that we talked about on Bitcoin, basically we're still expecting these lows to get swept before we do anything. If you guys take a look at the 1 hourly chart, so far we have a strong high being formed here. A strong high means that it's unlikely that it's going to get taken out again, or rather, it's unlikely that it will get revisited unless the trend is so strong towards the upside that price, eventually does go back there. Although what I do think is more likely to happen is the fact that we have just recently swept out this liquidity level right here, which means that right now, if you want to take a short from here down to here and targeting these relatively equal lows, which would allow the retail traders to just basically get spooked into thinking that, hey, this is the breakdown, we're going to go short, whatever, market's going to reverse. Because fact of the matter is that currently we are within a range. That's your range low, that's your range high. You swept your range high, and so right now it wouldn't be surprising if we were to return back to the range lows. And this just so happens to be one of those trend lines where if it gets taken out, retail is going to start shorting and they're going to be shorting low. And for those of you that understand how trading works, ideally you want to be buying low and selling high, not selling low and then buying back higher. And that is very likely going to be what happens to to the majority of retail traders once price gets to that level. What's also interesting is that currently there is a feather gap over here. Now, I know this does not look like a big feather gap on the daily chart. It does not, in fact, look like a big feather gap on the lower time frames as well. But it is, at the end of the day, a feather gap. And right now you have liquidity levels basically concentrating right before some kind of higher time frame feather gap. So that's a really clear sign that there is inducement going on right now. And this is going to trick a lot of people into buying, or rather shorting into Bitcoin at a really terrible time. And so right now the move is going to be riding this lower. Other than that, if you're looking for a long, you might look for it after those liquidity levels get swept. But right now, though, I think your opportunity is going to be lying in terms of the altcoins. For example, you have TOO right now, which is moving really, really cleanly. You have Solana as well, which is moving relatively clean and moving with a relatively strong amount of volume. And that's what you want to see as a trader. As traders, as long as there's volatility, we will be able to trade it. The worst things that can happen to us as a trader is when price is kind of just ranging around. Now, of course, don't get me wrong, there are traders out there that will be able to utilize ranging conditions really well. But at least for me, at least for this channel that you're watching here, we are primarily a trend trading, or rather my system's primarily a trend trading system. And so we're going to focus on that. It's basically just waiting until a trend establishes itself, and then we will ride that trend until it dies. And then we just repeat the same thing all over again once we have a different type of trend. Before I get into the video though, if you've been struggling with trading so far and you would like to break through and just fix most of your major problems when it comes to trading within 7 days, I have a free email course that's right, absolutely free. I recently just improved it, rewrote everything, and just made it as valuable as possible for the person reading it, which is going to be you. And if you are interested in fixing your problems, or basically free, click the first link in the description box down below. But otherwise, we're going to get into Solana. So taking a look at Solana at the moment, we are getting very close to this higher time frame liquidity level right here, which means that until this level gets taken out, I do believe that price is just going to make kind of like a beeline there, or at least the trend is going to maintain to be bullish until that level is hit. This is using a higher time frame key level to pair with lower time frame market structure, or like overall market structure. Right, it appears that the camera may have, died temporarily. So now we're back. So going back to what we were talking about Solana, yeah, we're using a higher time frame key level to frame the overall market structure to kind of like get a better, higher probability guess on where price is going to go. And I do think right now, just because you're very close to this liquidity level right here, it's unlikely that you're going to just, start going down from here on out. And this is also supported by the fact that you have order flow going in the direction of bullish. So essentially, this will be a bullish order block that if price were to retrace to, heck, if currently this is kind of like an imbalance, right? This is a feather gap, which means that if price were to retrace to this, holds it, today closes bullish, then basically this week you're just going to target 147.5. Now this theory, or rather this thesis, will only really get invalidated if Bitcoin starts tanking all of a sudden, which at the moment we are predicting Bitcoin to start tanking. Although given how close price is to this level right now, which is only about 5%, nothing much in crypto, I do think that you're going to take this out before you start doing any sort of hard reversal. Another thing to keep in mind also is that overall Solana is still in a downtrend. So even if you look at market structure, even if you look at order flow, you're overall in bearishness. So that's bearish order flow, that's another bearish order block, boom, boom, boom. Pretty much the same story with Bitcoin, basically, until you get a strong close above this right here, and you actually form a lower high, sorry, a higher high, a higher low, and then you form a higher high. Until this happens, you are not yet in the clear for bullishness. Right now, this trade for this week is just from here to here, which is just a really clear move and a really clean move and something you should look for. So the specific trigger that you want to look for is some kind of a green candle. For example, yesterday we had a green candle. And the next day, you want to go onto the 1 hourly chart, and then you want to look for PD arrays that kind of support your theory. So for example, right now we're trading into a bullish order block. Either that, or we actually have a liquidity level that is present right before a fair value gap. So that is a fair value gap. Let me just switch it up. So right now, there are two potential setups. One is if price starts going up from here, we just hop onto the lower time frame. Then if we confirm bullish order flow on the 5-minute chart, in which case that is my lower time frame, then we just take a trade from here on out, potentially looking something like this, and then targeting that high, which would give, roughly 8 hours. Second theory, second option would be to, after this liquidity level gets swept, heading into the fair value gap, once you feel lower time frame order flow goes bullish, then yep, then you will go all the way to 147. But that will be the way that I trade this, just looking for green days and then trading into reversals, because ultimately we understand that every candle has a power of 3, right? If you're bullish, ideally, you want to be looking for, assuming this is the open, you want to look for a low, look for a high, and then heading into the close. So essentially, today open up here. Currently, we're in the low, well, potentially low of the day. Maybe later you break through this high of the day and then you close, right? Doesn't have to happen today, but this is the general setup that we're looking for. So that is Solana. Secondly, we take a look at BitTensor. So BitTensor has been really clean in terms of price action so far. But we're just going to remove that. No business there because the trade has already happened. So right here, you have just taken out a liquidity level, but you are still going strong, which means that you're going to target this liquidity level more likely than not. Although, one thing to keep in mind is that you are about to trade into a bearish order block, which means that price may take a little pit stop once you get into this level. And the way that I think the BitTensor scenario is going to play out is that, first of all, you have just confirmed a change in state of delivery on the higher time frame. This is basically just a fancy term for a change in order flow, which means that you have went from bearish order flow to now bullish order flow. But just because you are in bullish order flow does not mean that there will be no retracements. In fact, you want to look for retracements, because when your order flow is bullish, when your order flow is clearly bearish, that means that PD arrays are being respected. So the PD array that we have in mind at the moment is going to be right here. I'm going to draw it out with this line. So you can see that we've already retested it once, but I do think that after you take out either this level or fill in that bearish order block, you're going to head back down to target that PD array. Also fill in this bullish fair value gap, just like what we did here. Once we had a initial changes to your delivery, then price actually came back down. 1 week later, fill in the fair value gap, and that's where the explosive move happens. The key here, though, is to be actually patient to wait for this to happen, because this was a period of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days from the formation of the fair value gap before it actually got formed, which means that right now it's already been 2 days. It could take longer, could take shorter, but the key here is that you remain patient with this and you do not, jump into entries too prematurely. But overall, this would be the entry. Coming back into here would give you an opportunity to take a long all the way up to the next liquidity level, which is going to be right there. I'm going to mark this out with a liquidity $sign. So right now, this is also liquidity. And so target's going to be 360. Now, there's also the potential that price, after hitting, this bearish order block here, you're just going to, start heading lower. Although trading is a probabilities game, I do think that at the moment, based on my years of experience, that the probabilities for this is going to be retracement heading into the fair value gap and then continuing the uptrend rather than, just taking this and a boom, full-on reversal. BitTensor is one of those coins that I think even if Bitcoin were to start dumping aggressively, it wouldn't affect it too much. So that's going to be BitTensor. And now we move on to the last one, but not the least. It's Pocket. In fact, I'll have one more bonus one for you for anyone that stays till the end. Got to keep that YouTube retention going, but I wouldn't give you guys BS. There are so many coins on the watch list and I'm only talking about 4. So Pocket at the moment, this is also really close to this liquidity level right here, and you have a clear favorite gap. And if we go onto the lower timeframes, you will see exactly the type of liquidity that is being built up right above that favorite gap. So these are relatively equal lows, which means that this acts as a magnet for liquidity. I do think that price is going to sweep out this liquidity, fill in this favorite gap, and that will be your opportunity, basically taking along somewhere along here. Now you don't have to put the stop loss all the way at the end of the favorite gap, but you're going to target that one right there. But even if you were to do the widest stop loss possible, you will end up with at least a 2R trade, which in my books is always a trade worth taking. Ideally though, we want to look for 3, maybe 5, although those opportunities come by much less. And not only much less, but the key to actually catching those opportunities is to be able to refine your timeframes, right? Going from the higher timeframes down to the lower timeframes. And if you're able to do that, then that's how you catch those, bigger RR entries. But for now, taking a look at the daily chart, just so we don't lose track of it, currently we have a broken base being formed. Right now, this is a liquidity sweep, followed by an immediate break in market structure with an aggressive move. This is known as broken base. This is one of the highest probability reversal patterns out there. And highest probability does not mean 100%. That's something that you guys need to really get through your heads. Ultimately, as long as we're taking the trades that are, where the probabilities are lining up more than not, then over the long term, over the course of 1,000 trades, over the course of 10,000 trades, that's where the results add up. It's not about, measuring your success based on your last 5 trades or the last 10 trades. That is way too small of a sample size. Just like how if you flip a coin 10 times, you may end up with all 10 heads. And you might think that, oh, this probabilities thing doesn't quite, add up as they say it would be. But here's the thing, right? Even you yourself know that you need enough of a sample size in order for those probabilities to play out. If you flip a coin 1,000,000 times, well, chances are you're going to end up with a 50-50 distribution. So anyways, going back to what I was talking about with PopCat, currently we have a broken base. Right now, we're just waiting for a retracement into a key level. And if we were to draw a fib, like this is going to line up with the discount very beautifully right there. And so that's going to be the level that we look at. Now, of course, it is not just about blindly putting in a trade like this and then boom, the stop loss and then boom, the target. It is also about refining your entries, or rather ensuring that the order flow kind of lines up with, everything before you get into it. This is the extent to which I can help you on YouTube. Although, fun fact, I'm currently working on kind of like a 20 to 30 part video series that I'm going to be posting on YouTube over the upcoming couple of months. It's just going to be insane, like just lots of value, just breaking down the system, teaching you guys how to think when it comes to trading, teaching you whatever I know, basically. And if you might be interested in that, stay tuned. Now, before I move on to the last and final one, we are a big fan of thinking in terms of probabilities. And in this case, what if PopCat does not retrace all the way down to here and it just starts taking off from here, right? What do we do then? So taking a look at the daily chart, breaking above basically 0.2544 is going to give you a validated bullish order block, which means that a retracement into it is going to give you a potential entry. But I do think that you're still going to wick through this more likely than not. So the potential play here is that, no, that will be the entry. That will be the entry. If this starts breaking out like super aggressively, then that will just end up being a momentum trade, and you will utilize whatever you've been taught in terms of Solana. Basically, if you get a green candle, next day you want to look for a open, high, low, close kind of trade. Again, if you get a green candle close, open, high, low, close kind of trade, and you're going to be trading all the way until this target right here. That will be PopCat. And lastly, we're going to get into this one called Kaito. Kaito is one of the top in terms of like fundamentals and in terms of like mindshare. Kaito's like up there with the rest of them. Unfortunately, the token, price action has not been keeping up with how good the fundamentals are, which is quite a common thing when it comes to crypto. It's so much more narrative driven and like pump mentals driven and also current market conditions are pretty horrible for crypto in general. So I'm not actually surprised that, the token's performing poorly, but we cannot overlook the fact that the token is performing poorly, which means like what I'm trying to say by that is that currently, you're about to retrace back into a bearish order block on the daily. In fact, you already have. Right now, you have also filled in this failure gap right here. And so if today closes bearish, or the moment you see order flow start to change, this is going to give you an opportunity to trade all the way down to the current all-time low, which is right here at 0.67. What you want to see basically is, well, bearish order flow. You want to start seeing bearish PD arrays start to get respected, a price breaking below, what is otherwise known as bullish order blocks. Price breaks below, comes up, treats the resistance, and boom, that's going to be your entry trigger. This one's pretty straightforward. Essentially, if you take a look at Kaito on the larger time frame, this has been, just straight up bearish order flow. So until this order flow changes with the break above $1, basically, because currently this remains a big block of resistance until this gets broken through cleanly on the one, like at $1. You're gonna start looking for a high low, but until that happens, you're just gonna keep shorting this. And guys, and if you enjoy these smart money analyses done on crypto, then make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell notification, because I'll be coming up with so many more videos over the course of the next 2-3 months. But otherwise, guys, see you in the next one. Bye bye.